You've just spent 3 hours comparing cruise ships. You've watched the promo videos, scrolled through the glossy photos, maybe even picked your cabin. You're excited. But here's the problem. The ship you just fell in love with might be one of the biggest vacation traps sailing in 2026. I've gone through thousands of recent passenger reviews, analyzed satisfaction data, talked to crew members and travel agents who book hundreds of cruises a year, and I've narrowed it down to 15 ships that simply are not worth your money right now. Some of these will surprise you. A couple might even make you angry. And number 1? That ship has no business charging what it charges. Stick with me through this entire list because the one ship you need to avoid most is the one most people are booking right now. Before we get into this, let me be clear about something. This is not a hit piece on any cruise line. Every company on this list also has ships I genuinely love. What we're talking about today are specific vessels that, based on recent passenger feedback, value analysis, and 2026 deployment schedules, just don't deliver the experience you're paying for. Your cruise budget is sacred. Whether you're spending $2,000 or $12,000, you deserve a ship that earns every dollar. So think of this as your protection guide, because once you're on board, it's too late to switch. I've organized these into 4 tiers, starting with proceed with caution, and building all the way up to cross it off your list entirely. Let's get into it. Let's start with a ship that catches a lot of first-time cruisers off guard, the MSC Armonia. On paper, she looks like a bargain. MSC prices her aggressively, especially for Caribbean sailings, and the photos make her look perfectly fine. But here's what those photos don't show you. The Armonia was originally built in 2001 and lengthened in 2014, and despite cosmetic touch-ups, she feels her age in ways that matter. Passengers consistently report outdated cabin finishes, worn soft furnishings, and a buffet experience that falls well below what MSC delivers on their newer Meraviglia and world-class ships. One couple I came across in a review forum described it perfectly. They said it felt like booking a 4-star hotel and checking into a 2-star room. When MSC is running deals on the Grandiosa or the Seascape at similar price points, there's just no reason to settle for the Armonia in 2026. The Carnival Elation recently went through a dry dock refresh, and Carnival made a big deal about it. New hull paint, updated spaces, the works. But here's what happens when a cruise line rushes a ship back into rotation. The refresh is cosmetic, not structural. Passengers who sailed her in late 2025 reported that while certain public areas looked better, the cabin still felt dated. The plumbing had recurring issues on multiple decks, and the air conditioning was inconsistent. That last one matters more than people think. Imagine being on a Caribbean cruise with a cabin that won't cool below 78 degrees. It happened to enough passengers that it became a pattern in the reviews. For the price Carnival is asking in 2026, you can book the Carnival Venezia or the Firenze and get a dramatically better experience with their Italian-themed dining and entertainment upgrades. The Elation had her glory days. They've passed. Some ships were built for a different era of cruising, and the Norwegian Sun is a textbook example. Launched in 2001, she carries around 2,000 passengers, which sounds intimate compared to today's megaships. But that intimacy comes with trade-offs that modern cruisers find hard to swallow. The entertainment options are thin. The specialty dining choices are limited to 2 or 3 venues. And the pool deck, which on newer ships is practically a water park, feels cramped and outdated. Here's what really stings though. Norwegian is deploying the Sun on some genuinely beautiful itineraries in 2026, including Alaska and South America. The destinations are incredible, but passenger after passenger reports the same frustration. They chose the itinerary and endured the ship. That's not how a vacation should feel. If you want those itineraries, check whether the Norwegian Jewel or Pearl are sailing similar routes. You'll thank yourself. Overcrowding isn't just about how many passengers are on board. It's about how the ship was designed to handle the flow. And this is where the Independence of the Seas falls apart. She was revolutionary when she launched in 2008, one of the largest ships in the world at the time. But Royal Caribbean has since amplified her passenger capacity through cabin conversions without proportionally expanding her public spaces. The result? Pool decks that feel like rush hour, buffet lines that test your patience, and the Windjammer, Royal Caribbean's signature buffet, becomes a battle zone at peak meal times. A travel agent I spoke with told me she stopped recommending independence for families with small children because the congestion creates stress, not relaxation. Royal Caribbean has brilliant ships sailing in 2026. The Utopia of the Seas, the icon of the seas. If you're going with Royal, go with a ship designed for today's passenger volume. Celebrity positions itself as a premium cruise line, and on their newer Edge-class ships, they absolutely deliver. The Summit, though. She's charging premium prices while delivering a mid-tier experience, and that gap is where frustration lives. Launched in 2001 and refurbished in 2019, the Summit looks acceptable in photos. But the Solstice-class and Edge-class ships have raised Celebrity's bar so high that the Summit feels like a step backward. Passengers paying $200 or more per person per night expect the elevated dining, the modern staterooms, the curated atmosphere Celebrity is famous for. On the Summit, they get a version of it that feels diluted. If you're choosing Celebrity for the premium experience, and you should, it's a fantastic line, book the Celebrity Ascent or the Beyond instead. That's where your money actually buys what Celebrity promises. When your dining options become a source of frustration instead of excitement, something fundamental has broken down. And that's the consistent complaint about the MSC Divina. She's a Fantasia-class ship, launched in 2012, and she's not ugly by any means. But the dining experience, which for many cruisers is the single most important part of the voyage, draws repeated criticism. Passengers report limited menu rotation in the main dining rooms, underwhelming buffet quality compared to MSC's newer vessels, and specialty restaurants that don't justify their surcharges. One passenger's review stopped me cold. He wrote that he paid $45 per person for a specialty Italian dinner and said that pasta at his neighborhood restaurant back home was better. That's a problem. MSC has improved dramatically on their newer ships. The Divina just hasn't kept pace with where the brand is heading. Here's something most people don't consider. A ship sailing the wrong itinerary can turn a dream cruise into a week of missed potential. The Norwegian Dawn is the prime example of this in 2026. She's a capable ship for what she is, a 2002-built vessel with reasonable amenities for her age. But Norwegian has deployed her on itineraries in 2026, where she's competing against significantly better ships from other lines. When you're paying similar prices but getting fewer dining options, older entertainment, and dated cabin technology compared to what's docked next, to you in port, the comparison becomes impossible to ignore. A seasoned cruiser told me they stood on the Dawn's deck in Cozumel, looked over at a brand new ship at the adjacent pier, and felt genuine regret. Don't put yourself in that position. Research which ships are sailing your target itinerary and compare directly. Sometimes a cruise line's loyalty program nudges you toward a ship that benefits their deployment strategy more than your vacation. If you're a Carnival VIFP member and you keep getting targeted offers for the Carnival Liberty, pause before you book. The Liberty is a 2005-era Conquest-class ship, and while she's functional, she represents Carnival's previous generation in every meaningful way. The staterooms are smaller than what Carnival builds now. The entertainment programming hasn't been updated to match their newer XL-class ships, and the water features that families love on the Mardi Gras or Jubilee are simply absent here. The discounted price feels like a deal until you're on board and realize you're paying less because you're getting less. Carnival has invested billions in new ships. Sail on one of them. Now, we're getting into territory that concerns me more. The Voyager of the Seas holds a special place in cruise history. She pioneered the rock climbing wall, the ice rink, the Royal Promenade. But history doesn't justify a 2026 booking when maintenance complaints have spiked noticeably in recent review cycles. Passengers in late 2025 reported issues including non-functioning elevators, stained carpeting in hallways, and cabin fixtures that felt loose or worn. One review mentioned that their shower handle came off on day 2. These aren't isolated incidents. They're patterns that suggest deferred maintenance. Royal Caribbean is a company that knows how to maintain ships. The Voyager just doesn't appear to be getting the attention she needs right now. Until that changes, there are better options in the fleet. Here's something that doesn't show up in any brochure. When crew morale drops, passengers feel it in every single interaction. And this is the quiet issue plaguing the MSC Musica. Crew review platforms and passenger reports both point to the same thing: service inconsistency that goes beyond normal variation. Some passengers report wonderful, attentive service. Others describe staff who seem disengaged, overwhelmed, or undertrained. The pattern suggests a crew retention and satisfaction problem specific to this vessel, not MSC as a whole. Why does this matter to you? Because on a cruise, your daily experience is shaped by the crew more than any other factor. The bartender who remembers your drink, the cabin steward who anticipates your needs, the dining staff who make dinner feel special. When those interactions feel flat, everything feels flat. MSC's newer ships appear to have better crew placement and training pipelines. The Musica seems to be falling through the cracks. This next one is about math, specifically the cabin-to-public space ratio. The Norwegian Sky carries over 2,000 passengers, but was designed in an era when ships had fewer and smaller public venues. The result is one of the worst ratios in the industry, and it shows on sea days. When everyone's on board with nowhere to go but the pool, deck, the buffet, and a handful of lounges, the ship feels claustrophobic. And here's the kicker. The Sky operates short Bahamas cruises from Miami, which means she's often packed with first-time cruisers who chose her because of the low price. They have nothing to compare her to, so they don't realize they're getting a compressed version of what cruising can be. If you're considering the Sky as your first cruise, I'm asking you to look at alternatives in that same price range. The difference will shape how you feel about cruising forever. A ship that consistently underdelivers on its marquee feature has no business charging what it charges. The Explorer of the Seas was one of Royal Caribbean's flagships when she debuted, and her signature promise was adventure and exploration. Cutting-edge features, innovative spaces, an experience that felt like the future. In 2026, that promise rings hollow. Her adventure features have been surpassed multiple times over by newer ships. The spaces that once felt innovative now feel like relics, and Royal Caribbean continues to price her as though the name alone carries value. Passenger reviews increasingly use words like disappointed and expected more. A family of 4 I came across spent over $6,000 on a week-long Explorer sailing and wrote that they wished they'd spent the same money on an Oasis-class ship instead. That sentence tells you everything. When passengers are openly saying they wish they'd chosen differently, that ship has a value problem. From this point forward, we're talking about ships I actively recommend against for 2026. The Carnival Valor sits at number 3 because her passenger reviews don't just express disappointment, they read like warnings. Launched in 2004, the Valor operates short cruises out of New Orleans, and her recent satisfaction scores have dipped below where any cruise line wants them. Cabin condition complaints are frequent. Noise issues between staterooms come up repeatedly. And the food quality, which Carnival has genuinely improved across their fleet on newer ships, hasn't translated to the Valor's galleys. A passenger who cruises twice a year told me, bluntly, the Valor made him consider switching cruise lines entirely. That's not a review. That's an indictment. Carnival has better ships. Sail them instead. Number 2 on this list is the ship that might be the cruise industry's most quietly expensive disappointment, the Norwegian Spirit. Here's why she's so dangerous for your wallet. Norwegian prices the Spirit at rates that look competitive with their newer, dramatically superior ships. Unsuspecting bookers, especially first-timers, see the Norwegian name, see the price, and assume they're getting the Norwegian experience they've seen in advertisements. They're not. The Spirit was built in 1998 and originally sailed for Star Cruises before Norwegian acquired her. Despite a 2020 refurbishment, she still carries the DNA of a different brand and a different era. The cabins are configured differently than standard Norwegian ships. The freestyle dining experience feels limited compared to what Norwegian delivers on the Encore or the Prima. And the entertainment, which Norwegian has elevated to Broadway level on newer vessels, is noticeably stripped back. Most passengers don't realize any of this until day 2, when they start comparing notes with friends who sailed on other Norwegian ships. By then, you've already spent the money. This is exactly the kind of trap this video exists to protect you from. And here it is, the number 1 ship you should avoid in 2026, the MSC Opera. Now, I want to be fair. MSC as a cruise line has made extraordinary strides in the past 5 years. Their world-class ships are legitimate competitors to anything Royal Caribbean or Norwegian offers. The MSC Explorer Journeys brand is pushing into luxury territory with real credibility. But the Opera? The Opera is sailing in 2026 as if it's still 2005, and the disconnect between what MSC is charging and what you actually receive on board is the widest gap on this entire list. She's small, just over 2,000 passengers, which isn't inherently bad. But the onboard experience has drawn the most consistently negative reviews of any ship I analyzed for this video. Dining quality comes up in nearly every critical review. Entertainment options are described as bare bones. Cabin maintenance issues appear with alarming frequency. And here's the detail that pushed her to number 1. MSC is deploying the Opera on itineraries in 2026 where she'll be docked alongside their own newer ships. Passengers who book the Opera and then see the MSC World Europa or the Seashore at the next pier are going to feel the gap viscerally. One former crew member I connected with described the Opera as the ship that makes passengers love MSC's other ships because the contrast is that stark. If you're considering MSC, and you absolutely should because their newer fleet is remarkable, please book the Grandiosa, the Seascape, the World Europa, or any of the Explorer vessels. Just not the Opera. Not in 2026. So let's bring it all together. 15 ships, 4 tiers of caution, and one clear message. Not every cruise ship deserves your hard-earned money in 2026. If I had to distill this entire video into the essentials, stay away from the MSC Opera. Think very carefully before booking the Norwegian Spirit. Read recent passenger reviews before committing to the Carnival Valor. And on every other ship we covered, always compare what you're paying against what newer ships in the same fleet offer for similar prices. That comparison alone will save you from the biggest regret in cruising, realizing you could have had a better experience for the same money. You now know something that 90% of cruise bookers don't. You know which ships look great on a booking page, but fall short where it matters. In your actual cabin, at your actual dinner table, on your actual vacation. That's powerful knowledge. Use it. If this list helped you dodge a bad booking, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. I put out cruise content every week designed to protect your vacation budget and make sure every sailing you take is worth remembering. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you sailed on any of these ships? Did your experience match what I covered? I genuinely want to hear from you. And if you're wondering which ships actually are worth booking in 2026, that video is coming very soon. You're going to want to see it? Cruise smart. I'll see you in the next one.